we just don't get enough opportunity to extend our spine in the regular everyday lives. We have a whole lot of opportunity around our spine. We wonder why we're all kind of hunched forward all the time. But it's very rare unless you're like reaching back for something, or or looking up at the sky or something like that. It's very rare for us to have a natural big extension in our spine in our daily movements. So it's something that we really have to attend to, that we need to make sure that we're doing in our body on the regular. We don't want to skip those extensions. And one of the things about just any yoga practice, most times, that is so wonderful is that we have the opportunity to extend our spine every single class. We at least do a cobra or two, something that brings us into spinal extension. And it's really important to do that every day, have a little bit of spinal extension. And I don't know about you, but when I do something simple, like, just even a cactus and opening up your chest, there's an almost immediate response in the nervous system that can be really powerful to give us energy to shift perspective almost immediately. It can happen to me where I have an attitude change. And I don't know if that happens to you all as well. I hope so. But I really value this ability to counter a lot of the natural movement pattern of hunching forward that we tend to have, for what it does, not only for our physical being, but for our emotional being as well. So today we're going to do some heart openings, some chest openings, some back bending, and try to think of it as something that can be very subtle, that it doesn't have to be a full wheel pose for you to get the benefit of all this beautiful extension of the spine, and what it does for our internal organs and our breath and our the space around our heart for the physical heart and the emotional heart. So be kind to yourself in these postures. Make sure that you're paying attention to how the spine reacts to back bends, so that you're doling it out just the right amount and not too much. Okay. All right. So close your eyes for a moment and sit up straight and tall. And maybe just have a little spinal wiggle, so you can just kind of already be like, oh, yeah, this is my spine. These are all the little vertebrae and the way that they connect. Okay. And then once you kind of get a handle on, oh, this is how I feel in my spine right now, seek stillness. And as you do, maybe close your eyes and drop your awareness and your attention down into your pelvis and your lower body, your legs, so that you can have this grounding force below you, a pedestal that you're rooted into the earth. And from this grounded space of your legs and your pelvis, notice what your spine is naturally doing. Don't change anything. But if you just kind of catch your spine unawares, where you have a little glimpse of the posture that you often hold, what's there? Do you slump? Do you round your back? Are your shoulders kind of rolling forward? Does your head jut forward? Does your heart sink at all? So, if those are patterns that tend to want to live in your body, try not to have judgment around it or a push pull, like, oh, I must draw my shoulders back and lift my heart, but to just unfurl like a fern, where you can subtly start to unwind some of that forward rolling posture that we all tend to have at some point. And, obviously, we work a lot with the shoulders, kind of letting them open and broaden, and maybe your shoulder blades get a little firmer and drop down. But also pay attention to where your head lands. So, a lot of times, our thinking mind is the leader. So, we move forward with our head into the world. So, let's allow our whole skull to drop back just a little bit, so you can feel like your ears are over those shoulders that have opened up, and your ears and your shoulders are over your hips. And you might notice when you sit with this type of posture for a while that your back gets tired because you're not used to it. This is a pattern that's not as familiar and habituated. Move yourself into your breath. Try to loosen and soften into some healthy posture instead of harden and grip. Attention to the fullness that your lungs can have on your inhale and the fullness that your lungs can have on your exhale. Let's place the hands together at your heart. Just take a moment to feel the actual base of your sternum just float upward. Offer an intention here, even as you bow your head, try not to sink your heart. Let's release your hands and find your way onto your back. So as we stretch out and lengthen and feel ourselves open up, that extension of the spine can find its way a little easier sometimes when we're lying flat on our back because gravity isn't compressing down on us the same way. So as you stretch out long, reach your arms overhead and have a moment of just feeling into that beautiful extension. And then stretch one side and stretch the other side. And even this, we're not necessarily in a back bend, but you might feel already here that your spine is extending in a different way than when you're sitting or working on a computer or driving a car or gardening in your garden or whatever you're doing that has your arms in front of you. So enjoy just this simple, simple act of stretching your arms overhead and lengthening your sides. And then lower your arms down at your sides and notice the shape of your spine here. And we'll just do a couple of movements, lifting your arms overhead. You don't have to move them now, just stretch up overhead. And notice the shape of your spine and how simply lifting your arms overhead creates a little bit of that back bendy vibe in your thoracic spine. One more time, arms down at your sides. One more time, arms up overhead. Feel the changing shape of your ribs and of your spine, and maybe even of your breath, and maybe even of your attitude. Relax your arms. So it doesn't have to be giant big back bends for you to get the beauty and gifts that back bends can give you. Bring your knees into your chest now, and let's rock and sway a little bit. And circling your knees. Circling your knees the other way. Checking in with your back, noticing your sacrum, your SI joints. Let's open the knees away from the midline and bring them back in toward the midline. Just get this nice opening and awakening in your hip joints. Right knee into your chest, left leg long on the ground, and move around in your ankles and feel your toes wiggle and move. Just kind of touching base with lots of parts of your body, saying hello, welcoming. Good squeeze of your other knee, right leg long on the ground, and feel the movement of your ankles and feet here. Sometimes our yoga practice can be just 2 minutes of wiggling our toes and rolling our ankles, and we can have a shift of our awareness, of our sense of presence. Doesn't take much. Draw your knees into your chest, pick up your head and feel the spine round. Give a good squeeze, maybe a little core engagement, maybe a little face squeeze. And then open up to a big star on the ground, stretching your limbs wide. Notice that shape of your spine shifting. Draw your knees in, round your spine, pick up your head. And one more time, feeling that extension. So even our simple warm-ups finds our way to the shapes of our spine changing. And let's roll to our side and come up onto our hands and our knees. Something as simple as cat cow, which we also do just about every time. I don't remember the last time I stepped onto my mat and didn't do a cat cow. So, this is a beautiful way to make sure that you're getting a little bit of that extension in your spine. It's different when your arms aren't over your head. Still beautiful and functional and good for all the ways we want our spine to move. But notice the difference when our arms are down instead of when our arms are overhead, like we were just doing. As you move through some cat cows, make sure your breath is coming along for the ride, or maybe even guiding the ride. And then after a few rounds of flexion and extension, by all means, move your spine around in a complex engagement of movement. So that doesn't mean you have to think so much for it to be complex. Our spine knows how to do complex movement. We do it all the time. So just stop thinking and just let your spine start moving. Wagging your tail, circling, maybe bringing one shoulder forward and then the other, whatever feels good. Try not to analyze and only feel. And then drop back into child's pose. Settle your hips toward the heels and walk those hands far forward. And reach into that arms overhead, which is a beautiful aspect of that thoracic spine mobility. Walk your hands over to one side and feel that reach through your rib cage, the dropping of your pelvis, the softening of the base of the skull. Walk the hands over to the other side. Feel that reach, dropping your hips down. The base of the skull is soft and at ease. Breathe into the ribs. And come back to center, up onto all fours, swirl around, be like a snake. Let's find a warming up twist. Lift your left arm all the way up in the air, open your heart. And then when you're ready, exhale, slide that shoulder underneath, gaze toward the floor, feeling that openness across the shoulder blades, maybe into the rib cage. Notice the breath. See if you can still move the breath deeply. Relax the eyes downward, let the head rest down. Go ahead and reach that arm all the way back up into the air. Hand comes down onto the ground. Let's switch sides. Arm lifting high. Exhale, slide that shoulder underneath, gaze toward the floor, a nice twist in the spine. Let your breath live within the twist well. You ready? Find your way out of there, reaching the arm up in the air. Hand comes down onto the ground, dog pose. Feel that extension here. Push off your hands to reach to the pelvis. Take some time. Let's find our legs. Pedal your feet, opening up the hamstrings, the Achilles, the calves. Feeling any movement that wants to be had here. All right, so come to yourself. Feel the roots, hands and feet, those four corners of hands, the spreading across the toe bed. Feel the ribs lift toward the pelvis instead of sink toward the ground. And then walk your feet forward and come to Uttanasana, folding deeply. Feel free to shimmy or shake or bob your head. Round through the four corners of your feet. Inhale for a halfway lift. Grow long in your spine. And then exhale and feel that full back body stretch again. Relax your skull. Climb all the way up. Bringing your arms to the sky, feeling that extension and length. Hey, reach up. Here's another back bend that just subtly lives in our bodies. Simple things like reaching our arms overhead gives us a lot of that extension that we're looking for, and add a little bit more to it. Lean back a little bit and just see what's available. Can you stabilize with your core and your legs? So ground yourself so that when you open up, you're not smushing your low back. We want the extension to be rooted in the legs. And let's cactus open the heart here. Bend your elbows, pull your arms back, hug your shoulder blades. And then exhale and round and feel the forearms touch and the chin come to the chest. Inhale, arms up to the sky. Let's interlace your fingers. Make a fist with your hands. You can point your index finger straight up if that helps you with the extension. Reach, tip your head back so your upper arms are right in front of your ears. And feel that lift off. Root your feet, unlock your knees, bend your knees just a little bit so you feel your legs. Straighten them without losing that extension through the back of your spine. All right, and then exhale and fold forward. And let your back relax. Soften your skull, wag your tail. Inhale for a halfway lift. Melt and fold. Step back to a dog pose. Feel that extension in the body again. Open up and breathe. Ground through the four corners of your hands. Ground through all the toe beds. Fill up your breath. One of the beautiful things about encouraging extension in the spine is the openness that our lungs can receive. Let's come forward into a plank. Hold yourself steady. Now, when you're here, notice if you pull your heart into your chest. Expand your heart away from the center. Let it broaden out in all directions like a sun. Reach your crown away. Reach your heels away. Full breaths into the side bodies. All right. Find the ground. Find your way all the way to the earth. A couple shoulder rolls. Let's feel those shoulder blades and where they're moving on the back. And then dip them down toward the low spine. Engage your core so that you're not only relying on your glutes. The glutes engage as well. Inhale, open up, cobra pose. Keep the elbows bent, drawing down toward the ground and back toward the wall. And then relax and melt back down. Let's take a wider version, hands out to the sides like a V, palms on the ground. Feel that extension. Reach into your feet, reach into your heart, extend the front body. And then exhale and relax. Again, come up on tall fours. Let's release that back bend out of our body. Wag your tail, circle. This is a good place for you to pay attention to how you're moving into those extensions of the spine. Is there any strain in your back? And if so, how are you going to modify the next time we come around to something like that? Can you use your core to help you? Can you make sure your pelvis stays nice and stable? Come back up onto, or not back up, come down. Bring your forearms down to the ground for a moment. And then stretch back towards child's pose. Try to keep your elbows right where they are. So instead of lifting them up, stretch back towards child's pose with your elbows on the ground, and it'll change a little bit of the stretch in your shoulders. You may not get your hips all the way to your heels, and that's okay. Just feel that extension through the shoulders. Breathing well. And then come back up onto your elbows. Now we get to come off our elbows. Palms back on the ground. Walk them forward, puppy pose. Knees are under hips, so we're not taking our hips back like child's pose. They're staying lifted. We're dropping the chest toward the ground without collapse. See if you can have a little counter current of a lift under the armpits as you find that extension in the thoracic spine. So especially if you're hypermobile in your shoulders, it might be very easy to just fall. Let's not fall. Let's lift as we drop. And then Come back up onto all fours, walk your hands underneath you. Again, move your spine around. Notice what happened in your back from doing that extension. Is there any repercussions that you need to be paying attention to? Curl the toes under and lift to dog pose. We're going to do some spinal rippling now. So we're going to round our spine and kind of roll forward to a plank. And then let the heart expand again when we get into the plank. And then roll your spine back to dog pose. We'll do that one more time. Rolling our spine, so we're rounding our way forward. And once we get into a plank, expand the heart, collarbones broaden, breathe deeply. And then back. And then walk your feet forward. Uttanasana, folding deeply, shimmy, shake, whatever kind of neutralizing posture that happens for you. Find your inhale, a halfway lift. Exhale, and fold. Push off your feet, climb all the way up. Arms coming to the sky. Let's interlace your fingers the opposite way. Index fingers pointing up. Reach your ribs off your hips. Ground your legs. Tip back just a little bit. Maybe your head is behind your upper arms, so your ears are behind your arms a little bit. And then back to neutral. We're going to find chair pose with our arms just like this. So feel the difference when our arms are bound instead of open. Drop your knees, or your hips rather, back. And then unwind the arms. Feel the reach, a little more ease in your shoulders. Maybe your arms want to come out. Maybe they want a cactus. Maybe you want to bring your hands together. Maybe your arms want to come back behind you. Find your breath. And then come up, standing on our tippy toes, feeling that fullness of a reach to the sky right from our toes. And then exhale, heels come back down, fold forward. Okay. Coming into Uttanasana again. Grab your blocks if you haven't already. Okay. We're going to take our left foot back, come to a lunge. Place your back knee on the ground. Of course, you can pad underneath it with a blanket or a little bit extra block mat. And then if your knee doesn't like being on the ground, you can do this with your knee off the ground. Toes can lay flat or curl under, your choice. Just feeling the front of your hip open up. Now we're going to climb up onto your front knee, hands on your knee or hands on your blocks, your choice, whatever feels more supportive. Try, especially if you're very flexible, try not to sink and collapse through the pelvis. Press your front heel into the ground and drag your front heel and back knee toward each other. Hug your inner thighs toward the midline. So you have these strong legs, the roots of your back bend. Finding your way up now with the arms, feeling that extension that comes from the roots of your legs. And let's turn this into a twist. You can either bring your forearm to your knee, the hand to the floor or a block, or the elbow to the outer knee. You can, if you're taking your elbow to the outer knee, you can cross and put your hand on your shoulder, or you can bring your palms together. So any variation of the twist that works in your body. Still using that support of the legs to reach through the crown. Find the full breath. And the arms come out of that twist, hands on blocks or the ground. Lift your back knee up off the ground, finding a lunge. And let's bend and straighten. Relax the hip flexors a little bit as you straighten that front leg. Bending your knee again. Next time you get to a lunge, settle your feet so you can take a little wider stance if you need, whatever you need for balance. And then we'll come up, crescent lunge. Reaching the arms upward. Now when we do this, notice if your floating ribs want to push forward. See if you can integrate. Use your core a bit. Tuck those ribs in just a little bit. You don't have to feel like you have to pull way back, but have an integration. Okay? Unlock the back knee. Maybe it wants to bend a little bit. Maybe it wants to extend a little bit more. See where you're able to stabilize your core and your pelvis so that your low back is not overextended. And then release your hands down, back foot comes forward, fold deeply. Inhale for a halfway lift. Melt and drop again. This time our left foot stays in front, our right foot comes back. Let's bring our knee down to the ground. Take your time to kind of adjust. You know, you might need a little bit slightly different placement. You might need a little support. Again, we're not falling toward the ground, we're pushing off the ground. And hands can come on blocks, hands can come on your knee, whatever gives you that upright extension in the spine. Root into the feet, hug your inner thighs toward the midline. Feel that hugging of your front heel and back knee toward each other. So the legs are very active, working here to support the lift of your spine. So your spine can feel floating upward. Let go of your legs for a minute and feel yourself sink. And notice how much harder it is to float your spine. Okay? So use your legs to float your spine. Reach the arms up. Feel that extension in the body. Again, integrating the ribs. And then let's find the twist. You can have your hand on your knee. You can have your hand on the ground or on a block to twist. You can take your forearm on your knee. You can take your elbow. If you're using your elbow, your palms can be together, or you can take your hand to your shoulder. So, find the variations. And remember, we're not hunching in the spine. We're keeping that extension. We're keeping the work of the legs. We're finding the breath. Ready, unwind the twist. Have those blocks handy. Let's curl the back toe under, lift on up, and begin to bend and straighten the front knee. So that you feel that way of moving in your body. Breathing deeply. Into a lunge, round yourself. Inhale and rise on up. Bringing the arms upward. Let's interlace your fingers and feel, you can do it in the normal way instead of the weird way if you want. Just feel the ribs lift off the hips, integrate, and then unwind your arms and feel that full extension here. And maybe you want to cactus the arms, just kind of play and dance with what feels good to feel that enlivening nature of the back bend, living within the support and structure and stability of your strong legs. And then let's release the hands down onto the ground. Come back to dog pose. Heart lifting toward the pelvis. Hopefully you're feeling that dog pose each time gets a little different, a little easier. Come forward into a plank again. Feel that fullness of your heart expand. Collarbones stretch wide. Let's put our knees down onto the ground and find the earth. Okay, so lying on your belly. Let's wake up some of those muscles that help us with that extension of the spine. So bring your arms overhead. Your arms can be here. And of course, if your shoulders don't like this movement, your arms can be down at your sides. And you can take your arms a little wider if that's more comfortable too. Before we go anywhere, let's knit the ribs in. So maybe turn your head so it's facing the ground. Your eyes are facing the ground. Knit your ribs in and feel the work of your center body. So instead of just squeezing your butt cheeks together, and we will engage our glutes for sure, but not to the point where we're feeling like an external rotation of the legs. So we're engaging the core, we're engaging the glutes, but everything's balancing. So there's a lot of support through the center of our body. With this engagement, take a deep breath in, and we're going to lift the right arm and the left leg. Try not to lose the engagement of your ribs, the engagement of your glutes. And then lower that arm and leg down. Let's change sides. Knit the ribs in, feel your glutes turn on. You'll change shape a little bit on the ground. And then we'll lift the opposite. So left arm, right leg. Keep your neck long. And then melt that back down. Now, this is hard to do quickly and maintain the stability. So for a moment, just relax everything into the ground. So you can even put your hands underneath your head and just feel the shape of your spine, that when you're relaxed, you have a larger curve in your lumbar spine, maybe not as much support. And then engage your ribs, floating ribs in, engage your glutes, the core is engaged, bring the arms out again, and we're going to lift everything up and then left, right, left, right. Okay, so arms and legs, try not to think too much because they'll probably just do their thing if you don't think about it. Do working with opposites. Feel the core, the glutes, the ribs all holding steady. Engage the muscles along your spine. All right, and then relax. Come up onto all fours and check out again. Have a little assessment. How did my back do that with that? How did my spine feel? Move around any way you want to move around. And we'll come back towards child's pose. Taking your arms overhead. Inhale, we're going to lift up onto our shins. Arms coming to the sky. And then tracing back down. Child's pose. We're going to come one more time onto all fours, and we're going to do a very similar pattern of movement, but instead of being on our belly, we'll be on all fours now. Okay, we can't obviously do this rapidly, we have to do it separately. The right arm straight out in front of you, left leg straight back behind you. Integrate the ribs and the glutes. Feel your neck come at ease. Breathing well. And as you exhale, elbow and knee coming underneath you. Inhale, extend and lengthen. Reach on out. Exhale, drawing in. So feel those paraspinal muscles. Knit the ribs in. Feel your glutes as you transition into that extension and into that flexion. And put your hand and your knee onto the ground. Let's switch sides. Left arm, right leg. Feel that extension, knit your ribs in, use your glutes. Press your shin into the ground. Deep breath. And as you exhale, elbow and knee come underneath. Feel the transition. What muscles are holding you out there as you reach? And you feel those muscles along your spine, in between your shoulder blades, the ribs, the glutes. There's lots of muscles that are supporting this extension. How's your breathing? We'll come again back onto our heels. Inhale, arms up to the sky. And then trace back down. Okay, so last thing we'll do on all fours here. We're going to take that right leg, left arm. Right arm, left leg. Let's start there. And find the length outward. Now bring your arm and your leg out to the side. Toes down, thumb up. Maybe cactus your arm instead. Integrate. Plug your elbow and your foot into your center body. Finding breath. And then reach it long again. Place that hand and knee onto the ground. Second side. Left arm, right leg. Lengthening out just like we did before, like bird dog. And then we're going to come out to the side. Thumb up, toes down. You can keep your arm like this, or if you'd like to try cactusing your arm. If you do, notice if your hand and your elbow are on the same plane. Try not to drop your hand. Integrate, plug into the center. And then reach and extend long. Hands down onto the ground. One more time onto your shins. Up you go. Relax, arms down at your sides, breathing deeply. Let your back round for a moment. Okay. We'll get off the hands now. Just one more dog pose. Let's feel that extension as we reach our hips high. And then walk your feet forward. Shake your wrists. Get a little, that was a lot on the wrists. So let's just have a moment to release them. And then find your way up to stand. Right foot's going to come in front, left foot back. Virabhadrasana 1, warrior 1. Plant your back heel down into the ground. Let's lean forward with our arms behind us to begin. We will come up into a full Virabhadrasana 1, but first extend. Have your hands reach behind you, palms facing the ground. Lift and engage your triceps. Feel your arms lift just a little higher than your back and knit the floating ribs in. Root into the feet. Remember, our legs are our supports. Reach your crown and your tail away from each other. And when you're ready, you can interlace your hands if you want. You don't have to. Reach your arms up overhead and feel that fullness of Virabhadrasana 1. You can always lean forward if you feel you have challenge with integrating the ribs in and using your legs and your glutes. Lean forward a little bit instead of coming all the way up so that you lessen the compression in your lumbar spine. Ribs off your hips, feet rooting down. Maybe your head tips back. And then release your hands down, walk your back foot forward, come to fold. Let your body relax. Inhale for a halfway lift, feeling that extension. Melt and fold again. Let's step our right foot back. Our left foot is in front. Our back heel is rooting to the ground. So Virabhadrasana 1 legs. Come up a little bit, hands off blocks. Hands behind you, palms facing the floor. Engage your triceps, spread your collarbones, lift your heads of your arm bones a little bit, but also knit your ribs in. Feel the roots of your legs. Reach your crown and your tail. And when you're ready, if you want to interlace your hands the opposite way, or unlock your hands and just reach your arms up, remember you can be leaning forward to protect your low back. Root into your feet. Find that full breath here. Knit the ribs knit in, but that doesn't mean you stop breathing. The legs anchor themselves into the earth. Root to rise. Okay. Hands come down. Let's find either dog pose to child's pose or just come down to child's pose. Find your breath. You can take your arms next to you if you'd like, wherever you want to be. Full breaths. So I'm just going to open the rest of our front body a little bit. So we can come into, we're going to come into a bridge pose first. Okay, so we're going to get the hip flexors to open a bit. We're going to do this 3 times. Once with the block, once without a block, once with the block again. All right, so first, the block. Okay, bring your pelvis up. Put the block at whatever height you want it to be, but it's across your sacrum instead of in line with your spine, so your pelvis is supported. So low height, middle height, or 2 blocks. Open up through your chest. This is kind of our warm up to just sense the openness of our psoas muscles. Get the feeling of, freedom that isn't just about the back body, but about really feeling the front of the body open. Okay. Rock onto the tops of your shoulders. Take advantage of the fact that you don't have to hold your body weight up to really feel that openness across the heart. Fill up your breath. Empty it out. And now notice this is different. Our arms are no longer overhead. So it's a changing type of back bend. It's a different quality for some of your musculature. than when your arms are overhead. We're gonna place our feet grounding down. Now we're gonna lift off the block. You can take it out from under there, or just lift up off of it. Keep the heads of the arm bones opening. Turn your palms up toward the sky. Press your arms into the ground. Root the four corners of your feet. If you feel the desire to interlace your hands behind your back, you can do that only if you can keep that openness across your shoulders and chest. Four corners of your feet root down. So there's a lot of work in the legs to stabilize this pose. Take notice of your neck. We want to have our head pressed down, not our neck. The chest lifts. The sternum can lift toward the chin, but try not to pull the chin down toward the sternum. Imagine a block between your thighs. And then let's go ahead and surrender that pose. Before the third variation, let's just take a little windshield wiper of our knees, left and right. So this next variation we're going to do with the block again, but this time we're going to keep the block on the low height so we can really extend the hip flexors, in particular the psoas muscle. So grab your block. Again, it's across your sacrum, not in line with your spine. So your pelvis is supported. We're not stressing our SI joints. And we're going to start this block low. Even if you went high before, start low. If you feel the need to go higher, you can. We're going to take either, if you're very protective of your back, and by now you should be kind of sensing whether that's a reality for you, you can do this with one leg, heel down on the ground, one leg straight, the other leg bent, and then after a moment you can switch. Or if your back feels nice and safe, we can take two legs straight on the ground, heels stay down, legs are straight. You can have your feet in line with your hips or a little wider. All right, so take the variation. Now you might be very open and be like, oh, I want two blocks underneath me, or the slightly higher edge of the block. So you do you, but start low and then see where your body wants to be. So we're opening up now across the front of our pelvis, not just in the thoracic spine. Breathing deeply. Come back to neutral. You might need to adjust where your pelvis is on the block. We're going to bring our legs straight up. We are going to bring our knees into our chest, but first bring your legs up in the air for a little supported leg up the wall. Now feel the ease coming into your sacrum, into your pelvis. Full breaths here. So my hope today, we didn't do any extreme back bends, although for some people what we did is extreme. Just depends on, how your back is. So I'm hoping you're paying attention each time we move into an extension of the spine and we return to neutral. You have a moment to sense, how did that make my back feel? How am I doing? How's my breath shifting? So you can know what your boundaries are for your back bending practice. All right, now that we've released the back a little bit, bring your knees towards your chest and just get a little bit of a traction. Your pelvis is still up on that block. Breathing well. Head is heavy, shoulders are relaxed. We're going to start releasing the spine now. All right, we're going to bring our feet onto the ground. Lift that, hit the hips up so you can get the block out of there, and put your pelvis on the ground. Just pause here for a moment. Feet on the ground, knees bent, let your body breathe. Rest your heavy head. Feel the heads of the arm bones rest down. Relax. We have one more passive back bend to do. We're going to take the blocks into heart bench. So one block in between the shoulder blades. It can be across or in line with your spine. Low height of the block, unless you feel the desire to have the middle height of the block. And then the next block is a little bit higher, one notch higher underneath your skull. There's so many variations of heart bench, not only how you place the blocks and their height, but also what you end up doing with your arms and your legs. So you can straighten your legs, you can keep your knees bent, you can take your feet wide and knock your knees. You can take the soles of your feet together and let your knees splay out like Supta Baddha Konasana. So lots of variations with the legs, same with the arms. You can have your arms down at your sides. You can have your arms out to the sides like a T. You can cactus the arms. You can interlace your elbows in front of you over your chest and then stretch your arms over your head. So many choices of how to maneuver your body in this posture. So see what feels good today. And again, once you find a comfortable way to be in this pose, whatever that means today, can you notice how the shape of your spine impacts your organs, your breathing, your attitude, your perspective? The way you're breathing can really shift depending on how you hold your spine. Everything can be a cascade. So if you're finding yourself having a bad outlook or just, in a funk in your mind or in your heart space, sometimes working with the body and working with the breath can, we can do the bottom up approach instead of the top down approach. We can shift our mindset, our energy, our perspective, the way our, brain is really functioning by the position of our body and breath. All right, let's come out of there. And of course, if you're like, oh, I love this, then don't come out of there and stay for a while. But if you are ready, roll to your side, have a moment, maybe stick that block on your head, under your head, so you can just curl and rest. We're gonna come on to our back. We're gonna find a twist. Feet on the ground, lift your hips and scoot them to the right. Bring your knees up and drop them to the left. Right arm out to the side, turn your head right. Feel your body. So we're still having an opening across at the front of our shoulder, our pectoralis muscles. Bring yourself the opportunity to breathe here. Back up. And then let's switch sides. We're going to bring our hips over to the left, knees come up and drop right. Breathe yourself open here. Back to center. A full breath. Let's draw the knees into the chest and rock a little bit. Maybe a happy baby. Maybe some circling of knees. Maybe a cat cow. Maybe a opening up to a star and then rounding in. What does your body need? Right now, as you prepare for Shavasana, sometimes after doing a back bending practice, it might feel nice to have some support underneath your knees for Shavasana. So you can grab a bolster or some blankets if you want. There's no rules. For many of us, lying flat feels great, but just recognize that if you go in Shavasana and you're like, ooh, this is a little tricky, then there's always ways. You can even lie on your side with a bolster between your knees, blankets between your knees to your ankles, something over your head. So as you come to find rest, let your arms be down by your sides. They don't have to be touching you, but try not to have them overhead. Melt your body. Feel your limbs drop into the earth. A sense of heaviness through your skull. A bit of ease of your ribs. Feel ready. Deep breath here. Let your body rest fully into the ground again. Find a little bit of movement. Breathing deeply. To your side. Time to push up to a comfortable seat when you're ready. And as you come to sit, find, comfortable seat. And just notice if there's a subtlety of a shift in the way your posture is. Do you have, the heart in a different space than when you arrived? Pay attention to how this work of extending the spine affects your mind, your body, your spirit. Let's bring this together. Offer this energy of an open heart outward to another. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.